Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the AI Knowledge Bites of Artificial Intelligence in Library Lunch and Learn series. This is brought to you by Minitex. Excuse me. I have some quick housekeeping items to share before we turn it on over to our presenter today, who is Megan Breton. Let's go. So Megan will talk for about 30 minutes or so, and we'll follow that up with a Q&A session. You are more than welcome to enter your question in the chat box if you like during her presentation. However, we won't address those questions until after her session is done. During the Q&A session, you can also raise your hand and to ask your question as well. For the moment, you will be muted during her presentation. We won't end early if there are plenty of questions, and we will try to get through them all in this session today. And there's no pressure for you to stay if you have to run off to a meeting or whatever. But we definitely will encourage the conversation to continue as it needs to. And we are recording today's session, and we will make it available as soon as we can. We'll make it available on our Minitex YouTube channel. And we'll also follow up with an email to everyone when that is available, along with any handouts or resources that become available through the session. My name is Carla Fall. I'm an outreach and instruction librarian at Minitex. Joining me today in moderating this session is my colleague, Greg Ardo, who is the Open Education and Affordable Content Librarian, also here at Minitex. Megan Bratton is our presenter today. Megan is Marketing and Public Relations Manager at Natrona County Library. She holds a Master's of Library and Information Science from the University of Denver and a Bachelor of Arts in Public Relations from the University of Georgia. Her proficiency in artificial intelligence has been pivotal in enhancing digital content and making marketing strategies. All right, I will stop sharing my screen now, and I'll hand things over to Megan.
All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Cool. Well, thanks guys for having me. I'm excited to show you guys a little bit more about ChatGPT. It is really kind of a fun toy to play with. Anyone that I've talked to that started using it just gets really excited when they realize all that it can do. So today the kind of structure is going to be talking about some of the things that it can do and then showing you examples. And then at the end, if there are specific prompts or questions or things that you want to know if it can do, we can walk through those. So like she said, I am the PR marketing manager at the Natrona County Library. I am in Casper, Wyoming. Any proficiency I have in AI comes just from using it. And I use it pretty much all the time at work, but I don't have any kind of formal training on it. So please, keep that in mind as we go through this. So ChatGPT, I don't know how much of an introduction you guys need for it, but GPT does stand for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. And it's a large language model, which means it's trained on tons of text data and image data, and it's capable of producing a human-like response, which I think is really what's innovative about it, is that you can have this dialogue with your computer that feels very human. So it's a chat bot. AI is kind of a blanket term that can get confusing, but that ChatGPT is a chatbot and web application. And it has kind of two main offerings right now, GPT-4 and GPT-4o. I think they're calling it Omni, and it's relatively new. And we will talk a little bit more about all of those things as we get going. So I think the key to getting the response that you want out of ChatGPT is asking it the right questions. So this QR code will take you to like this worksheet that I did not create, but it's called the magic prompt. And you can look at that. Now, it used to be when ChatGPT was new, you really had to give it that prompt every time you were asking a question, or, you know, every time you started a conversation with it in order to get those responses. But we will also talk about custom GPTs and trainings and things like that, that you can do so that you don't really have to use a prompt every time. But I think one of the coolest things about ChatGPT, you know, we're all librarians or work in libraries, and most of us are familiar with the complexities of performing a good search. You know, when you're conducting research, it could take time to find the perfect search terms. And every time you perform a search that doesn't give you what you need, you kind of have to start over and go backwards and type something new in. But ChatGPT isn't like that. It's a conversation, and it doesn't forget what you just asked when you ask your next question or provide feedback. And it will learn you and get better at providing the responses you want over time. And like I said, the magic prompt may be the key to getting the response you want the first time, but you don't need to master it in order to get what you need every time. And also, I think it's important to note that the responses that you get are unique. So I'm going to show you examples. If you go into ChatGPT and type the exact same prompt, you will get a different response. And the more you use it, the more those responses will look like you want them to and be custom to your needs. So, all right. Programming and event planning. I think ChatGPT is a treasure trove of ideas and support for creating amazing events at the library. You can use ChatGPT to brainstorm and outline diverse program themes and event ideas, taking into consideration community interests and needs. Then if you like one of the suggestions, you can ask it for more details or ask it to give you links to real life examples to help you plan it out. If you're hosting a panel discussion, you can use ChatGPT to create Q&As. If you're looking for a story time option that covers a specific topic, it can even write like a children's story for you. You can, after you've got everything planned, you can then generate promotional content such as engaging descriptions and social media posts to attract a wider audience. And if you need to know how well you did after the fact, you can even use ChatGPT to develop follow-up surveys or feedback forms to gather participant insights and improve your future programming. So let's dive in and give it a try. So I've kind of got some, this is ChatGPT over here. Disclaimer, I use the paid version of ChatGPT. So I do have some custom GPTs over here. It keeps track of previous conversations that you've had. And it'll give you little prompts every time. So it's defaulting right now to ChatGPT 4o or Omni. But you can toggle up here between different versions of GPTs, and we'll talk about those differences in a little bit. And then you just start having a conversation. You can give it feedback information, you know, background information to start, or for these purposes, we'll just dive right in. So I'm going to say, give me innovative library program ideas that promote literacy in non-traditional formats. And you can see how it formats. It, you know, gives you lists with headers and bullets and everything. It's very visually appealing and easy to interact with and understand. So, oh my goodness, it keeps going. All right, we're going to stop it. At any point, you can hit that stop button that's right here, and it'll stop going. Now, if you did not like at all what it said, you could hit this little circle arrow thing, say regenerate. If you really liked its response, you can give it feedback by saying that was good. You can give it bad response. And So I really like number 6. So we're going to say expand on number 6. And this is the cool thing about it, is you don't have to go back and reiterate anything. It remembers this in this conversation. And I can give it all kinds of feedback. And it will remember it. So again, it is giving me a lot of information, so I'm going to stop it for the sake of time, but you can see how it gives a breakdown of how to do the program. We're also going to show you how it can write an event description. So we're going to say, write an event description for a genealogy workshop on this date and time. And there you go. So if you, we are a library that does a ton of programming, and I try to have all of that kind of funnel through me so that, well, not the planning, but the promotional side of it. So I use ChatGPT a lot to save myself time, and it's a consistent kind of tone and voice. All right, we'll go back to the presentation. Oh, I was also, sorry, I was gonna show you one more thing. And for planning, you can say, this is, I think, really cool. Like if you're hosting a book discussion, you can say, give me discussion questions for this book. And there you go. You've got all kinds of talking points and things to lead a discussion with your patrons for a book club. And you don't really even have to think. See, that took 30 seconds. All right, go back over here. All right, so on to communication and social media. You know, it learns from all the information that's out there, so it's really good at understanding different formats. So from social media posts and blogs, newsletters and e-blasts, it can be a huge time saver. You can even use it to create content calendars and write press releases. The key to any of these is providing adequate information and requirements. So it's a good place to test your magic prompt skills. And you can also provide it with examples of stuff you've done in the past to teach it your tone and voice, or to serve as templates. And you can provide feedback as you go to regenerate responses. If you don't like what you get, you don't have to start over. You can just give ChatGPT a nudge in the right direction to try again. Plus, even though it speaks like a human, you don't have to worry about hurting its feelings with harsh criticisms. And I've definitely gotten frustrated with it at times and told it that. And it didn't hold it against me. So you can also use ChatGPT allows you to create a seamless and unified voice across formats. So an example of that would be when we launched our telehealth booth at our library, which was completely new to us and the state and the community. I used ChatGPT to write the landing page copy on the website, the copy for the booth wrap that actually, you know, went on the outside of it, and the booking page, how you reserved it. I used ChatGPT to write bookmarks and flyers, posters, a press release, social media posts, an e-blast, and digital ads. And it was done all over the course of a couple months, not all at once, but it remembered what we had done before, what we had said before. So all of the pieces were cohesive in their messaging. So yeah, let's try it. You know, you can get ideas. Here's an example. I need weekly Facebook posts for library card sign up month. Sometimes it will do this. It will give you 2 responses. I don't know what makes it sometimes do that and sometimes not, but this way you can give it immediate feedback and say, all right, I liked response 1 better than response 2, and it kind of learns what you're looking for. It incorporates emoticons, whatever these things are, emojis, because emojis do well in social media, but it's not going to throw emojis in your e-newsletter content. It knows that this kind of content does well for this medium. So let's say we're just going to go, we prefer response number 2. Gives me weeks now. Week 1, write copy for the post and suggest imagery. So it will do that. It'll give you copy and even suggest imagery. Now you can use ChatGPT. It has image creation functionality. I'm not going to talk about that today because that is its whole own thing. But in order to get access to DALL-E, which is OpenAI's image generator, their main one, you do have to have the premium version, like a subscription. But there is some image capability with the free version. So there we go. We've got suggested imagery, copy, even placeholders for where you should put your link, hashtags. And, if I wanted to, I could give it, make it more friendly. And it'll change the tone. There we go. So you could also ask it for print newsletter article ideas and telling it who your audience is. Like our audience is library stakeholders. So I need something that's more thought leadership than library promotion. So that's going to have a different tone of voice. And then you can take what it gives you if it writes you an article. And let's say you also want to put it on your blog. Well, that's going to be a different kind of purpose and a different level of interactivity. There's going to be hyperlinks. There's going to be, sections with headlines and blurbs. So you can take, even if you or someone on your staff has written an article, but you want to change it to a slightly different format for a different medium, you can use ChatGPT to do that. You give it, word and character lengths when you need it. And that way it'll keep it to a length that works for you. And then let's say you want to send it out to all of your patrons via email. You can also use ChatGPT to help you construct email subject lines. And I actually use this a lot because for some reason, my brain just does not like writing email subject lines. And apparently emojis do really well in email subject lines. So there's that. Yep, you can create landing pages, all kinds of things. All right, so here's some other examples. Yes, it's already trained on all the information that exists out there on the internet, but you can teach it things too. By providing your own information, it can be more knowledgeable about the things relevant to you. So there's a couple ways to do this. You can upload documents. You can just drop the attachment in there and it will open it, and it can handle all kinds of file formats, PDFs, Word docs, Excel docs, all of that. You can just copy and paste the content from whatever format straight into there. And honestly, I find that it gives you better responses when you do that versus an attachment for some reason. Or you can give it URLs to specific pages on the web that you want it to synthesize. So it can crawl pages that you give it. So if you've got, I don't know, I want to write a blog post about this event that's coming up that we have, and I need it to relate back to this concept. You can just toss a ton of URLs and just put your thoughts and what you need in a really unorganized fashion, and it will be able to figure it out. You don't have to have your thoughts super organized. And if you forgot something, which I often do, if it gives you a response, then you say, oh yeah, add this, and it will. Its responses can be in the form of images, like I mentioned, code if you're a programmer or developer. It can give you charts and graphs. and all kinds of responses, not just text. And I also mentioned earlier that you can provide like your brand guidelines to help shape the tone of voice in your responses. But if you don't have those guidelines, that's okay. I actually used ChatGPT to help create brand tone of voice guidelines for our organization. And I did that by just providing examples, providing lots of feedbacks like, hey, we like the Oxford comma. We don't want to use a ton of exclamation points. We want to talk about ourselves in the first person, friendly, approachable, all of that. And it will create an entire document for you that you can then distribute to people outside your organization or across your entire organization to make sure that no matter who's crafting content for you, it always kind of adheres to the same standards. The information synthesis, like this is huge. And so I think it helps to give an example, but one of the ways that ChatGPT took a huge project for me and simplified it was with a facility needs assessment recently. Our library worked with an outside contractor to create this facility needs assessment document, and his final product that he gave to us was over 100 pages long. But I needed to turn that into a manageable size, like, just bite-size copy to share with stakeholders and decision makers. And instead of reading the whole thing and trying to summarize it myself, I just copied and pasted the content from that document, all of it straight into ChatGPT, and would ask it, provide a summary of this section, write a paragraph about this part. And I even used ChatGPT to search within the copy, kind of like a Google database or any of that, and answer my questions. I could just ask it a question about it and it would give me an answer. And it saved me a lot of time and condensed the information into really manageable chunks that people could understand. So I would suggest you try that, but we are going to also try another example. So I also was recently working on our annual report, and I pull all of our data into kind of a really unorganized Excel file. And so I am copying it. I went over to Excel. I copied this and pasted it into here. I'll show you, this is what it looks like on their end with what it can see. It also puts all the content in the body here, which I just think that you can remove it. It's kind of cumbersome. But I'm just going to say, give me a trends analysis of this data. And it will do just that. Like I said, it wasn't super organized, but it can figure it out. And so you can give it all kinds of data and get back responses, just helping you understand the content. I was really shocked when it did this, and I thought that is awesome. So, and then I can also have it create charts and graphs based on this data. All right, while it works through that, we'll jump back. Oh yeah, I was also going to show you how it can kind of troll the internet. So, let's see, give me the copy for a handout based on the information found on this website. This is a URL to our webpage for our makerspace. We call it a creation station. And so I didn't even have to copy and paste the content off the website. It crawled that URL for me and is creating this. So it's giving me, the information in the right format for a handout. I could tell it to make it shorter. I could do all kinds of things. All right, I'm going to speed through this next part. So like I mentioned, there's a free version and a paid version. This is a screenshot pulled directly from their website, the difference between the two. So one of the things that's cool is their most recent release, the ChatGPT or the GPT-4o Omni, that normally they reserve the newest one for paid users, but that is not the case. So you can get that 4.0 for free, you no longer have to be paid to get that fanciest version, but there are some limitations with what you get on the free version. With the Plus, you get all these things. Like I mentioned, the Dolly image generation, but I think the biggest difference is these custom GPTs right here. It used to be too that you had to be a paid user to even access custom GPTs, even if someone else created them. But now paid users can create these custom GPTs and share them with the general users, and people that are free can access them and use them. So what is a custom GPT? Great question. You can create these custom GPTs for different tasks. The one that I use the most is one that I've created, and I defined it. I told it, I said, you are a creative content writer and knowledgeable marketing consultant for the Natrona County Library. I've given it my tone of voice guidelines. And when there are certain structures I want it to remember for use over and over again, I make sure I teach it that, which you can just do as part of your conversation. So what I mean by that is like when we are doing event descriptions that require a sign up, I want all of those descriptions to end with this sentence: call our phone number for more information and sign up below to guarantee your spot. So by telling it that, and that this needs to go at the end of all those, it saves me the time having to change it every single time when it gives me something else. And I just said, learn and remember this, and it did. Talked about all of these things. You can upload files and train it on, by giving it specific instructions. So we're going to go to another thing. I did not create these, but someone else did. And they are custom GPTs that were built by someone specifically for libraries. And they're also a good example of pitfalls and limitations. So this is libraryrobot.org. Any of you can go there. We've got a book finder, a book summarizer, library programming assistance, which does some of the stuff that, like I showed you earlier, with ideas for programs and then helping you build it out. You can do authority record finder, talk to a book. It'll take the persona of any book you want and respond to you as though it is the book. Search query optimizer. I mean, there are a lot of things. I have played around with these some, and it's very cool, but I do think it's a good example of how ChatGPT can confidently give you the wrong answer. So for example, I had a patron call in recently. They were looking for a very specific book, and I thought, well, hey, there's this new tool. I'll go try it. I can't remember what it was exactly, but it would give me such a wrong answer, and a link then to a WorldCat listing for said book. You click through to the link. It's not even in English, and it is definitely not the book and that it says it is. Then you go and Google that title and author of that book, and it doesn't even exist. So it's a good example of why you can't trust everything that it does. So we'll talk about these pitfalls for a second. Like I said, it will confidently give you the wrong answer, whereas with like Google and Amazon Alexa, it will say, I don't know that answer if you ask it a question. ChatGPT does not do that for you. And those, like I said, the provided links can point to the wrong place or nowhere at all. Also, it's knowledge base. These are only trained up to September of last year. So anything that's happened since October, it doesn't exist as far as ChatGPT is concerned. So I am in a book club and I did not finish the book, and I wanted it to summarize the ending for me. But because that book was released since September of 2023, it was giving me summaries of this book that didn't even have the right character names, nothing. And if I didn't know any better, I might have taken it at its word and assumed that it was correct. So that's why you should always check behind yourself with anything that you've created. I have explored using ChatGPT as a foundation for creating like a customer service chatbot that would be embedded on our website, but I ultimately decided against it because you can't control it. It can go off the rails when a patron starts asking unrelated questions. And not only could that reflect poorly on the library, but it could also result in high costs, because when you use the chat or OpenAI or ChatGPT API, you do pay a very nominal fee, but a fee per question. And so people got on there and just started asking it stupid questions. It would add up quickly. I'm going to hop back to here to kind of show you around. Like, this is my custom GPT. Like I said, you're a creative content writer. It gives me some prompts that I've told it to. I never use these, but hey, somebody could. But you can learn more about it by just clicking about. I can also edit it. So it'll take you to this page. And here's all the instructions that I've given it about how we speak in the first person. When we talk about ourselves, we refer to ourselves as the library with a capital L. Familiarize yourself with these services. Here are some of the attachments. And then I can just talk to it and say, is there anything you could be doing better? Anything you'd like to change? And I can give it feedback right there. And then that goes into how it's formatted. And I've created other ones. We've got like a tech services one that could give you help with cataloging. This one was the one I was playing around with to be a virtual assistant with library event or library information. And then this one is one I've created to help create reading recommendations based on what people have read recently that they've enjoyed, or genres and things like that. So that anyone could use these, but to create and edit these custom GPTs, you do have to be a paid user. I do think it's important to note that as it becomes more popular, people are suggesting that you create specific AI guidelines for your organization about how you want to attribute content created with AI, if you've got blog posts or things like that. So before you really delve into this, I would get with your supervisor or whoever and see how they feel about you using AI generated content and external facing materials, because some people might take issue with it, and how you disclaim it is up to you guys. So I'm going to end it there and see what questions you have.
Thanks, Megan. We've got one question. Audience, hey, if you want to send in a question, send it into chat. So let me just read this out loud to you, Megan. One of the known issues with generative AI is that it can hallucinate, sometimes making up details to fill in blanks. What is your experience with doing quality control on the output from ChatGPT? And have you ever had any instances where there were errors you needed to correct? And then a follow-up. You did address this somewhat, but I'm curious to hear more about your experience, for example, with stats. Have you found any errors in its interpretation?
Yes, so we did kind of talk about the importance of checking behind its responses. I mean, a lot of the times when you're creating content for your marketing purposes, you are giving it the specific information that it wants, but it can come up with ideas, and those aren't always accurate. So I don't come across issues with untruths being in there very often, just by the nature of how I use it. But if you are going to use it for cataloging purposes or information seeking and all of that, yeah, it can give you an answer in a way that you're like, that is definitely true, because it is saying that with a lot of authority and confidence, and it is 100% false. So keep that in mind. And then with the stats, so when I used it to help me create, little blurbs in our annual report for, let's talk about the trends in this specific section and how they speak to this. So I broke the report down to like, this page is going to be about literacy, and I think these are the stats that speak to that. And it would impressively kind of already figure out like, all right, so we see growth year over year in this area, and here's what that says about our commitment to promoting literacy in our community. But sometimes it put things in there that I didn't want it to say. For example, or I didn't give it context. So if a number went down year over year, as many of us have seen, the trends in physical materials, people are checking out less of that in favor of more e-content. And so, I noticed that it said, oh, our physical circulation went down this year. And then it made an assumption about what that meant. And then also like our programming and our makerspace, the attendance numbers went down because we were having fewer programs in the space, but I didn't give it that context. So it made an assumption about why those numbers went down. And I had to go in and correct that. But I mean, the charts and graphs that it gives you, if you're looking at it from a design perspective, you can't really take those and then change the font and the colors and all that kind of stuff if you're looking to put it directly into a printed piece. But it can help you visualize it. And you can even do the opposite too. You can give it graphs and tell it to explain what's going on in the graph. So you can give it all kinds of images and say, tell me what's going on in this, and it will. It can look for copy and images. It can all kinds of context clues. So it goes both ways. It can help you take numbers and organize them, and it can also take organized data and explain it to you. Does that answer the question?
We've got another question here, real quick. Do you know what's the accuracy rate of the information provided, generally speaking?
I guess it depends on who you're asking. If you look at OpenAI stats, it says that it's pretty accurate, but I don't know how it categorizes those inaccurate responses when it's making stuff up, because it doesn't have any information. Like anything that's happened since October of 2023, if you ask it about current events, it'll tell you, it'll give you current events in September 2023. And that's not really accurate, but I don't know if they count it as such. And so every now and then I'm like, what day do you think today is? And it will tell me. I'm like, okay, then that makes sense why you gave me that response, because that doesn't make any sense at all. But I mean, it does a really good job. And the longer I use it, the more it sounds exactly how I want it to. And it gives me the response. I can, like, it'll give me something, I'll take it, edit it how I want it. Ultimately, then I pop that back in there and say, this is what I used. And it will say, okay, thank you. Now I will remember that. And sometimes if I've written something on my own and I have questions, I'll drop that in there and say, does this make sense? Is this the best way to say this? And it will tell you, if not, and how you could better say it.
I had one last question. Are there any telltale signs in the output that you're working with ChatGPT? For instance, it always spits out crucial. It is crucial to do this. I see that all the time.
Yeah, it does like speaking in superlatives. Everything is a highlight or a major event or things like that. So check behind it for, what is this really as important to our organization as maybe ChatGPT thinks it does. I know, like, I have become really attuned to being able to tell when content that I'm reading in other places has been generated with AI, because it has like certain keywords that it really likes. Like it loves the word tapestry. So if you see the word tapestry somewhere, there's a chance, unless they're talking about, fabric works and sewing and all of that, but there's a chance that it was generated with AI. So you will notice the more you use it, there are trends and things, and you kind of have to go back and catch those if that's not actually, or if it starts to become redundant and you're seeing it a lot and content output.
Cool. Well, we've run up against our time limit here, Megan. That went by really quickly. Thanks for speaking. Audience, thanks for stopping by. I'd like to invite you to join us future AI Knowledge Bite sessions. We've got one October 8th, one November 12th, and one December 10th. There's more information at this link. Have a good day.